Welcome to Work Unscripted. I'm your host, Marlo Lyons. I'm here to toss aside the corporate scripts for unfiltered truths. We are tackling real work challenges with no sugarcoating, providing you with the strategies to thrive and find fulfillment in your career. It's time to turn the page. It's time to be unscripted. Today is going to be a good one. I am so excited because today I am going to pull back the veil on human resources, tell you what you need to know on how HR works and where you need to be careful around HR, but also how you can leverage HR to advance your career at all levels. Yes, there are ways to actually influence HR to your advantage. So listen up. This is not going to be conjecture. This is based on my actual experience, meaning I was in the room every time I speak of an example or I conducted an investigation as an HR leader. Like most of you, I didn't have a whole lot of interaction with HR. Let me give you the backstory quickly. Early in my career, I never interacted with HR. In fact, in most of my jobs, I didn't interact with them, and I had no idea what HR did. All I knew was HR took my onboarding documents and talked about benefits while I sat with a group of new employees. And that was about it. Then at 26, when I was a TV news reporter, HR smacked me in the face. All right, not literally, but it sure felt that way. I didn't know why this lady I had never seen before was in the room when I went to talk to my boss about contract negotiations. But within seconds, I learned my contract was not only not being renewed, I was being fired. So those were my two big impressions of HR: onboarding and termination. From those experiences, I figured you only needed to talk to HR at the beginning and end of your employment, or what we all think when something bad happens, like harassment or bullying or discrimination. Otherwise, steer clear. Then, when I was looking for a new career around age 32-ish, I was working as an entertainment lawyer in the labor and employment group at Viacom. It's now Paramount. And I was exploring other fields and talking to a recruiter about what I should do next. And he suggested HR business partner. And I was like, hell no. I had no interest in doing onboarding or doing HR paperwork. But he explained in tech companies, especially, there are these HR business partners who are more strategic, working with the business leaders to help be strategic in how they hire, retain, and engage employees. The HR business partner, or I'm going to call it the HRBP, works with all the other functional teams in the business and helps leaders with everything from org design, which could mean a restructuring, to figure out whether to hire, upskill, or retrain to acquire skills needed in the business to achieve the business goals. And it could also be performance management, helping a leader distribute their annual pot of gold for raises and bonuses, and coaching on all aspects of their leadership of their people. Simply put, if a leader doesn't know how to give you feedback, they may consult their HRBP. If a leader wants to document feedback, they may consult their HRBP. If a leader wants to put you on a PIP, that's a performance improvement plan. Most certainly, the HRBP or legal are involved. If a leader has an organizational structural issue, how to reorg, cut budget, which means cut jobs because headcount takes up most of the budget, they work with an HR business partner and legal. The coaching and strategic aspects of the job, they were super intriguing to me, and exploring HR business partner jobs was the catalyst for me becoming certified in career executive and team coaching. I thought, this will be great. I love strategy and I love helping people. That's where I went wrong. Coaching is about helping people, and it's a component of HRBP, but HR is not about helping people. I'm sorry, it's really not. HR is about working with leaders to align employees' capabilities to advance the business. Let me repeat that. HR is all about working with leaders to align employees' capabilities to advance the business. So think about it. HR works for the same company you do, and you're all in service of the business. That's right. Corporate employment is not about you. HR's job is not to help you advance your career. It's about working with leaders to do what the business needs. Got that? That doesn't mean HR business partners are the bad guys. They just have a job to do, just like you have a job to do. But here's the problem. I've seen some HR business partners think their job is to be the police. They think their job is to make sure the rules are followed, and they're telling the leader how to do their job. These HRBPs call themselves puppeteers, meaning they're pulling all the strings and influencing or manipulating leaders to get the leaders to do what HR thinks needs to be done. That is not the HR business partner's job. These types of HR business partners aren't partnering with anyone. And I've seen leaders avoid these HR business partners because, quite frankly, who wants to be told how to do their job by some pushy HR person? From this end of the pendulum, you can swing all the way to the other side, and you may find some HRBPs are patsies or tools. They aren't strategic at all, and they bring no real value except to do what the leader says. So they're more tactical. Leader wants to fire you, their HR business partner says, okay, and works out the paperwork without really asking any questions. Or if the HRBP does ask questions, they may make the leader simply document what you're doing wrong and still follow through with the firing, even if that documentation hasn't been fully verified, because HR rarely reaches out to the employee in these instances to understand the employee's perspective. HR wouldn't know if that employee was, say, being harassed, and now firing that employee could be considered retaliation. See how companies can get into trouble relying on just their leader's point of view? That may even happen if it's well known that the manager is a poor leader, so the manager is probably the issue, not the employee, but the employee got fired. No joke. I've seen HR business partners on both sides of this pendulum. Now, don't get me wrong. There are good HRBPs out there. I swear, there are. The best HRBPs are those who partner with senior leaders of the organization and help leaders be better leaders. No one has all the answers, but if leaders have that HRBP sounding board who is a coach or has a coach mentality, then at least you have another perspective in the room when big decisions about people are being made or the leader is struggling with a decision. No matter what kind of HRBP you have in your company, there is one key takeaway here. They're in the know about everything the senior leadership is thinking and doing. When I was a director, HR business partner, I was in the know from the C-suite, which is your most senior executives, all the way down to the director level of each department I supported, and sometimes even lower. I knew about the leaders' employees' work performance, how the leaders and their employees collaborated with others, how the leaders themselves were perceived by their bosses, and how they receive feedback. And if I saw unconscious bias in promotions or in performance evaluations, raises, or bonuses, I was the first to question it. Was I always heard? Absolutely not, because HR doesn't make the decisions. Ever. HR can try to influence, but the leaders are the ones who make the decisions. So if your leader is blaming HR for something, such as not giving you a promotion or firing you, know for a fact your leader made that decision, period. HR doesn't have the power most people think they do. I remember seeing inequity in raises and bonuses and trying to influence the leader to demonstrate better leadership and integrity and less bias, and I failed. That was the hardest part of working in HR. Watching things you know are wrong, not illegal, but wrong. And also knowing once the leader makes their decision, that's it. You can't do anything about it. Why? Think about it. What would happen if the HR business partner pushed harder and harder on a leader, told them they aren't demonstrating integrity or leadership, or simply tell them that they're making a bad decision? The HRBP would lose their job. Unfortunately, too many HRBPs, much like you, want to keep their jobs. There is nothing wrong with wanting to stay employed, right? But think about it. If an HRBP supports a leader and points out unconscious bias or inequity or unfairness in that leader's actions, even in the nicest of ways, or even with a coaching approach, hoping that leader will do the right thing, and they try to influence that leader to come up with their own resonant understanding of what they're doing is wrong and they need to change their mind, what do you think is going to happen if that leader consistently disagrees or tells the HRBP, No. That leader is the one who will provide feedback to the HRBP's boss. It doesn't matter who's in the right here. Even if the HRBP is 100% right in calling out that leader, again, in the nicest ways possible, now the leader they support doesn't want to hear it and knows that the HRBP knows the leader lacks integrity or is easily biased. When you are seen for who you are and it's not what most people would consider good, do you want to work with that person who sees right through you? You following me here? So every HRBP has to be part patsy, has to go along with objectively bad leader decisions because they are not the leader, and consistently challenging poor decisions will compromise the HRBP's own success at the company. So that is why I say HR is not your friend. Nope, sorry. I think that is why I wasn't ever going to be a C-suite HR executive. I cared too much about people, wanting them to find fulfillment, be happy, be less burned out, become better leaders. And unfortunately, that is not HR's job. The only reason HR has human in the title is because HR works on aligning human skills and capabilities to the business needs and the business goals. Sounds sterile? Yep, it is. You are expendable. You are only as good and as needed as the product you produce and the value you bring to the company. I'm sorry, but it's true. If you want your employer to care about you, you need to own your own business. Don't get me wrong. Corporate employers do care, as long as you perform and don't cause any trouble. The better you perform, the more they care. So when a business tells you we're like a family or we really care about our employees, that could be true, as long as you perform, execute well, and don't create problems. Unfortunately, workplaces are not conflict-free. See the contradiction here? Let me give you a real example. Let's say you're a stellar employee, one that everyone respects, but no matter how hard you try, you just can't get your team to collaborate with another team because the leader of that other team is a well-known arrogant jerk who has been at the company for 7 years. And now the lack of collaboration is impacting your team's business results. Not good. You ask your HRBP for help. Your HRBP knows the reputation of the jerk leader, but also knows that the jerk leader is the only one who can do their job because they have a specialized skill set. See where I'm going with this? If your HRBP is a coach, they will coach the beloved leader into how to work collaboratively with the jerk leader. Right now, I know exactly what you're thinking. Why don't they work with the jerk? Well, if the jerk has been there for years, I can promise you they've either already had a coach and the jerk didn't change at all, or that jerk leader's boss doesn't care he's a jerk because they're so valuable, so no coach is needed. The beloved employee leader is baffled, as is everyone around them, because the jerk is still here, being a jerk, and you're now coaching the beloved employee on how to get along with the jerk because the jerk is considered more valuable to the business. In this case, it was a person who had a specialized skill set and a long history with the company, therefore historical knowledge on how things work, and they manage up well, so the higher level leadership either doesn't know they're a jerk, which, by the way, I just want to be clear, is rare, because usually these things are pretty well known throughout the company. Other reasons a jerk may not be going anywhere: the org isn't set up with a succession plan if the jerk is fired and there's no one to take over the team, or it's just too high risk and the company is afraid to fire the jerk because they know the jerk will sue for whatever reason. So let me sum up that little story for you. You are loved, collaborative, kicking butt every single day, but that doesn't matter because the jerk is more valuable to the business or the company is scared to demonstrate real leadership. That's why your HRBP will coach you on how to work with the jerk, because the company has no plans to do anything about the jerk. And if you can't figure out how to work with the jerk and the business continues to suffer because of the lack of collaboration between the two teams, then guess what? Your boss is talking to their HR business partner about you and the lack of productivity because you are unable to work with the jerk leader or his team. And no matter what you explain about the jerk, it won't matter. Now, one would hope they'd bring in a team coach to try to help the teams communicate and understand each other's perspectives. And I did work for one company where, since I was a certified coach, I was brought into numerous manager-employee misunderstandings, team misinterpretations, cross-functional team miscommunications. And each time, those employees learned something about themselves and each other and how to listen better to each other, and also, how to work more productively and simply get along with each other. But that takes a level of self-awareness on every person's part to achieve better working relationships and harmony. That is what HR should be doing. But unfortunately, HRBPs aren't all trained in team coaching. In fact, most are not. And not all leaders have the patience or want to spend the money to help resolve the conflict. It's just easier to fire someone, and it's not always the person creating the problem. I kid you not. I've offered to team coach as a way to resolve clearly contentious cross-functional team interactions and was rebuffed because a C-suite leader refused to engage to protect one of the two leaders who had a long history and friendship with that C-suite leader. Oh yeah, and by the way, the other one was fired. So you see, HRBPs can only do what they're asked to do or told to do. They can't just swoop in and do what's right, even if it is right for the company. Following me here? So about now, you're thinking you should hide from HR. No! That's absolutely the worst thing you can do, because then the narrative is controlled by your manager or their manager or the cross-functional jerk leader who is talking to HR. If HR doesn't know you, how you think, how you lead, then they can't even question a leader's perspective or opinion about you. And your job becomes at risk. You need to do the exact opposite. If you are in a relatively small company, get to know your HR business partner. Have lunch together one day, schedule a 20-minute meeting or meet and greet, find time to chat in the hallway if you're on site. Allow them to get to know you, how you think, how you're growing yourself, and ask them where the business is headed, what skills they think you need to gain, how you can be the best employee for your leader. Of course, some weak HRBPs will deflect and say, ask your leader, but some will give you some hints about their foundational knowledge about you that they learned from talking to your manager. Show your eagerness to grow and learn and provide value to the organization. Then follow through with that. And depending on your level, if you're a lower level leader, perhaps set up a meeting with your HRBP every 6 months or so to check in. If you're a director or senior director, perhaps meet with your HRBP twice a month. And if you're a VP or above, you should have a standing, and I do mean standing, meeting with your HRBP every week or every other week, depending on your HRBP's bandwidth. You, leaders, need to create bandwidth to engage, no matter how busy you are. No joke. Remember, the HRBP most likely supports more than one organization and more leaders. They have meetings with other HRBPs as well who support leaders across the org. They may have a more global view of the organizational trajectory and the goals and the changes that you are not even privy to. Seriously. They may not tell you what is going on, but they will leverage that information to help coach you in whatever business issues you're having. Therefore, if you are not leveraging your HRBP, you are missing a major leadership component to being a leader. Every week, meet with your HRBP and discuss your org and demonstrate your own leadership capabilities through these conversations. How you gave feedback to an employee, what you're doing to develop an employee, how you're working with cross-functional teams, how you're resolving conflict, how you're leveraging the talent development resources your company provides to develop yourself. Then ask your HRBP for advice or coaching on difficult conversations you're having and learn how to be an effective change management leader. Demonstrate your leadership capabilities naturally through these conversations. You want your HRBP to see your value as much as you want your boss to see your value. Because when your HRBP is talking to your boss or is talking to the other HRBP who works a level up and learns that your boss is questioning something about you, you want your HRBP to provide another perspective that demonstrates certainty in your leadership capabilities. Your HRBP should hold your confidence, but they can leverage the information from those conversations to provide their perspective on you and your intentions and your performance and your capabilities. So that's when everything is going well. What happens when things aren't going so well? You are a leader or an employee who has been accused of harassment, bullying, or discrimination. Your company is obligated to investigate no matter what. If you have been meeting with your HRBP all this time, then they may actually know that you've been giving hard feedback to the employee, and the complaint may be coming from that. But the investigation is meant to be unbiased. Yet, keep in mind, when the investigator says, "Help me understand, and I'm here to listen," they are listening from the perspective of the company, not you. If you are the accused, the safe space you had may not be as safe, even if you did nothing wrong. And if you're the employee making the complaint, someone from HR will talk to you and explain that they take the complaint very seriously and they will investigate thoroughly, as they should. But most complaints don't end up with illegal behavior being found. Why? Because there is no law against your boss being a jerk. And what I have seen most often is an employee who is struggling to make sense of what their boss does or says. Maybe you feel like you've been harassed, or you feel like you've been discriminated against, or you feel like you've been bullied because your boss hasn't been transparent about decisions or their communications. But feelings mean what the manager has done is not in alignment with how you would behave or your values. So what they say or do simply triggers you. Without meeting all the legal requirements for a claim, that is not harassment. Harassment, bullying, etc., they are legal terms, and the investigator is digging deep to understand whether what you experienced rises to the level of a true claim. Here's the issue, though. Once you brought the complaint and no illegal behavior was found, do you think your boss or that leader really feels comfortable around you anymore? Do you think that they trust you? Do you think all just goes back to normal? They can't legally retaliate by firing you. Okay, great. Once HR spits out the report saying no illegal behavior and then tells you maybe the leader gets some coaching, that's it. You're now left to fend for yourself. I rarely saw HR facilitating an open conversation between the leader and the employee to better communicate in a way it can be received or better understand each other or better work together. I facilitated dozens of these conversations after an investigation to understand the behavior on both sides and ensure there was transparent communication. And it was refreshing and truly put the incident behind both the employee and the leader. But remember, I'm certified in team coaching, and most HRBPs aren't. In talking to all my HR friends, it just doesn't happen often. Then the same behavior continues to fester. It continues to feel bad and triggering to you, the employee, and eventually one of you will leave. And most often, it's the person who brought the complaint. Get it now? HR's job is to help leaders align talent to the business needs and goals of the company. Help leaders hire based on business needs, restructure based on business needs, and promote based on business needs. It is not there to protect you, the employee. So if you need help on how to navigate complexities in the office that impact you directly, not your employees, that's what executive coaches are for. The journey is yours. Work Unscripted is produced and edited in partnership with the team at Palm Tree Podco and 21 Digby. The content for this week's episode was created by me, Marlo Lyons.